Welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of KevinMD. Rate and review the show at kevinmd.com/rate. Subscribe at kevinmd.com/follow. Today in the show, we have Janet Patin. She is a family physician. She wrote a satirical article, Stunning New Medical Conditions Overlooked. Janet, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Delighted to be here with you, Kevin.
So we'll get into your KevinMD article in a little bit, but first off, can you just share your story and journey to where you are today?
Sure. I'm a family doc. I grew up in the Midwest in Cincinnati, Ohio, did my undergrad at Yale. I always knew that I was going to be a doctor. Two of my best friends growing up had parents who were physicians. So with a lifetime of medicine ahead, in college, I decided I would do something else I was interested in, and I was a religious studies major and wrote my senior essay on Jonathan Edwards, our greatest theologian. Then I did medical school back in Ohio at the Ohio State University and came out to Portland for residency at Oregon Health and Sciences University. We had studied the Oregon Health Plan in my medical school and wanted really to be part of that better way of covering patients. Then I spent 18 years in a small town. I wanted to be a big fish in a little pond. And so I moved to the coast to a town of 4,800 where we were not just clinic docs, but also ER hospitalists. And I was a hospice director and I did a full spectrum of family medicine until my kids got old enough to need more intensive schooling, and then made it back to the burbs, and I'm now in Gresham outside of Portland.
I'm a primary care internal medicine physician, and everywhere you read, primary care is going through a tough time. So tell me some of the challenges and rewards of primary care from your perspective.
We get to take care of the whole person, and it's not so body system focused. We try to see the whole family. And that's been one of the delights of seeing multiple generations. It helps to understand people's social situation. I have done home visits in order to better understand where people are coming from and have been able to indulge my own personal interests of helping people with chronic pain and, end of life planning. No longer doing OB or deliveries, and I've shifted my focus more towards helping people prepare instead of the beginning of life to prepare for the end of life. And starting those conversations about meaning and purpose in life has been a real privilege.
So you mentioned that one of your interests is palliative care and chronic pain. So I think those sometimes can be very difficult cases, difficult conversations. So tell me some of the challenges that you have to overcome in treating some of these conditions, specifically with patients with chronic pain or in end-of-life care.
We are so focused on doing, and we have so identified ourselves, not just as physicians, but I think in our culture as what we do. You go to a party, first thing people say is, what do you do? What's your business? And when you have disability or chronic pain or addiction problems, that shifts. And we have to kind of change our conversation from doing to being. And, what's important to you and how do you change your goals of the day from accomplishment to relationships? And, why should we wait until the end of life to have those conversations? Doctors are stressed and we deal with these intense things all the time, and adding joy and humor into our lives is really important at the end, but also important right now. Sure. And so that was the impetus, I think, for writing a little something lighter.
So let's talk about that KevinMD article. It's a satirical article titled Stunning New Medical Conditions Overlooked. Now, for those who didn't get a chance to read your article, just walk my audience through it and share the story of why you decided to write it.
Yeah. Well, I had always done some writing as a kid. I sort of wonder if there's a book in me. I have friends who have published, and I realized writing takes dedication and time, like
Yeah.
anything worth
Hmm.
doing. A book is not going to spring fully formed from my mind like Athena from the mind of Zeus. And during the pandemic, it was an opportunity. Turned out not to be the fantasy free time
Hmm.
that I had always thought that everyone stuck at home would be. And I have two full-time jobs. I am a family doctor 40 hours a week, and then I'm a family doctor another 20 to 40 hours a week. But my reaction to stress is to add things to my schedule. So I discovered writingmedicine.org. It's through Stanford,
Hmm.
and it is a Saturday morning writing course for medical professionals. And it was a lifeline through the pandemic. We get together for an hour. The director, Laurel Braitman, gives us a little bit of pep talk and lessons and a prompt, and we write for 8 minutes and then read to each other. And it's just been delightful. And one of those prompts was come up with some new medical conditions.
Hmm.
So my article is 10 neologisms from animalculism, the joy you get from your fuzzy pets and the consequences there, and on from there. They're all sort of definitely related to the pandemic experience we have had.
So tell me about this writing course that you said that you took from Stanford. Who are the clinicians who primarily made up the students of this course?
Well, we're still going. It started every week. Now we're on the first and third Saturdays. There are about 100 to 120 people who Zoom in from all over the world. And it is not just doctors. There's definitely a lot of primary care, but there's psychologists, there are
Mm.
art therapists, there are pediatricians in other parts of the world. There's a delightful guy from South Africa. There is just a huge range of people, and it's not all practicing clinicians. Family members of people involved in medicine are also welcome. And so we've had all ages too.
So you have a writing coach or professor or teacher ask you to do a writing prompt in a certain period of time, and then you read it all out. And what happens next?
Well, this piece, I only got 3 of them done in 8 minutes, but it seemed like a good enough idea that I was able to flesh it out. And then the next step is sharing it with a wider audience. So
Hmm.
I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share with you.
Talk about how therapeutic writing is, because as we know, practicing medicine, especially primary care, is very, very stressful. And you talk about sometimes dealing with a difficult patient population with chronic pain. Comment about how writing can be an outlet for you.
Absolutely. I used to keep a journal, keep a
Hmm.
diary when I was young. A little embarrassing to go back and read those middle school entries. But when we talk with patients about having problems sleeping and their minds just, racing all night long, one of the strategies that we suggest is getting up, going somewhere other than your bed for 20 minutes and doing something quiet and non-electronic. And I always suggest journaling. There is something about physically putting pen to paper, that connection between your mind and your body, that is just very health inducing.
Mm.
And it takes time. And often we do not dedicate the time to taking care of ourselves. And something as simple as writing in a journal, writing these pieces, 8 minutes, you can get a lot done. It's been
Mm.
amazing what people come up with. And so I think the first part is just committing the time and giving yourself the space to do something that is fun and really brings pleasure to life.
I've had other physician authors on this podcast, and they've written on KevinMD, and they all say similar things to what you say about how therapeutic writing is. Now, I also get physicians and other healthcare professionals, for that matter, who say that I'm not a writer, I'm terrible at writing, I don't know how to get started. So, for this group of healthcare professionals who may not be the most accomplished writers or may not be comfortable writing, how would you advise them to get over that hump and get started?
I think if we argue our limitations, then we're going to have those limitations.
Hmm.
So start by not saying I'm not a writer.
Hmm.
We are such deep and varied people, and writing is not hard. It's a part of us. It's been part of our education. So I think the first step is to just set aside that inner editor and critic. And that's one of the things that they tell us on Saturday mornings is, for this next hour, you are the best writer in the world.
Hmm.
There's no apologies. And we just go for it. That sometimes can be a big hump because, our perfectionism is what got us to where we are today. And it has served us well in certain ways, and in other ways, not so much. So just getting started. I mean, that's why it was so wonderful to have this Saturday group,
Hmm.
and you show up. Showing up is a big and easy first step. Having a place, having a dedicated spot or journal, and having a really nice pen that is
Hmm.
fun to use. They're little things.
We're talking to Janet Patin. She is a family physician. She wrote the satirical KevinMD article, Stunning New Medical Conditions Overlooked. Janet, what other tips can you share from this writing course that you could share with my audience in terms of other prompts that they've made you do, or other piece of advice that your fellow classmates and your writing professor has given during this course?
I would encourage anyone who's interested to check out writingmedicine.org and join us, because I am not a professional writer. I
Hmm.
am, aspiring, and I am hesitant to offer too much advice for something that is not my area of expertise. I am more excited about encouraging people to try something new, to try something they've always wanted to do,
Hmm.
and to add a little bit of fun into our very intense lives.
And my final question, what are some of your take-home messages that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
Well, I do believe that you can do it all, just not at the same time, and that we do make time for what is important to us. And so to take a look at how we've been spending our time, and does it really reflect what is important to us? Our lives are so intense,
Hmm.
and writing has been a way to let me pause and refocus. We are so used to putting our head down, putting your nose to the grindstone,
Hmm.
that I do think it's worth taking the time to throw your head back and laugh. You know, take your vacation and leave your laptop at home. Throw a little fun into your workday. Um, I have these sticky notes for, interoffice things from Knock Knock, and they say things like, awesome, or just adulting over here, or high five, that add a little color and smile to our day-to-day stuff. Can you wear silly socks or fun earrings or lapel pin on your coat or something hanging off your stethoscope? Those little things definitely add up. I get the Funny Times, which is a newspaper that is just humor, and it's a great way to decompress. We can't be serious all the time.
Hmm.
And I think our patients appreciate humor, and, bringing joy to what we do helps everybody's health, and it's doable.
Janet, thank you so much for sharing your time and insight. And thanks again for being on the show.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.